Government and public sector organizations face unique challenges to accomplish complex missions with limited resources. Fortunately, the capabilities now available through cloud computing are helping public sector officials implement new and more innovative ways to better serve citizens. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and joining us to talk about that today, and specifically how the cloud and AI are helping to accelerate efforts around logistics and supply chain issues, are Amy Freeman, Chief Technology Officer for Logistics and Mission Support Operation at Leidos, and Samir Mehta, Principal Business Development Manager, Operations and Maintenance at Amazon Web Services. Amy and Samir, thank you so much for joining us. And Amy, let me start with you. What are the business issues or the opportunities that drove the need for change in government logistics?
Thank you, Wyatt. I appreciate the chance to talk to both you and Samir about this today. I wanted to answer that question, and really there's issues, challenges, and an opportunity that are driving the changes we're seeing at Leidos and for our government customers in the logistics space. So I'll start with the issue, and that is really what we're all feeling. I think every day that we wake up, we are greeted by a new supply chain issue in the headlines. So whether that is driven by cyber issues, labor disputes, if it is still result of the pandemic that we experienced, we are feeling that in our personal lives, and also Leidos and our government customers are feeling it. From a Leidos perspective, people don't always think of us as a logistics company, but we really do have a large amount of logistics work across the federal sector and do some of the hardest supply chain management jobs. We take cargo to the International Space Station, we take cargo to Antarctica to support the Science Foundation, and any of the supply chain struggles that we feel in our personal lives, those are exacerbated when you take them 20,000 miles or all the way to the galaxy for our customers. And so that's the issue. The opportunity side is in our in our private lives, we order something and it shows up 2 days, or even now it's showing up today, what I call the Amazon effect. And so it is where commercial industry has gotten so good at supply chain management that our customers want that same level of service and same level of confidence when they leave their homes and go to work. And so it's that opportunity to transform logistics to where the commercial industry is going.
And Samir?
Yeah, Wyatt, thanks for having us here. And it's fun to talk about the subject. I think what Amy's talking about, that almost the experience that our customers get by working with us, is something that we're hearing a lot about the government side as well. And I think we talk about government best practices, but also modernization of supply chain. And some of these things that we talk about as challenges really are wholesale changes in how we think about logistics and how the supply chain actually moves for our government customers. So with Amazon, we have fulfillment centers, we have robotics, we have warehousing, we have a lot of technology we've applied to the problem. I think what we've seen is a government customer very interested in bringing technology in, but having a much more complex problem. So while the Amazon experience is great for the consumer in the commercial world, in the public sector, and what we've learned from working with Leidos has really been their experience will be different, and what the requirements look like are actually a little bit different. And that makes partnering with a company like Leidos and working closely with Amy really helpful for us as we work backward from where our end customer wants to be. And these challenges that Amy's describing and how they affect them are going to be tackled, not just with technology, but by real partnership with both our team as well as the Leidos team.
Well, when we talk about supply chain logistics, I think we often think about end-to-end delivery, but talk to me a little bit on a broader level about what supply chain resiliency means. Amy?
Yes, I think that word resiliency is maybe one that we didn't use that often before the last few years. And so we're in a state where we want resiliency in everything we do, whether that's cyber resiliency. But when you look at it from a supply chain perspective, what does that mean? And I think from the Leidos view, it's that our customers can continue to operate through whatever is thrown at them. So they need to be able to have a supply chain that they're confident in, that it can deal with any of the threats that are out there, and that our customers can still continue to meet their mission. So while I might be frustrated personally that I have a shipment that's late because of a cyber issue that occurs, but for the critical missions that our customer has, we don't want to put those at risk. So supply chain resiliency is the ability to operate throughout, to be able to sense as many threats that are out there to get ahead of and be able to respond to those and have the data that you need at your hands to make your decisions at speed so that you're minimizing any disruption.
And I'm curious, Samir, how would you all define supply chain resiliency from Amazon's perspective?
Well, we think a lot about agility and ability to actually respond quickly to a lot of the threats that Amy described. But I think the threats in the public sector are a little bit different. And Amy, I think I'd like to hear from you. I mean, you get to deal and learn about these threats all the time. What kind of threats are our customers dealing with, and how are we looking at those differently?
I think the challenging part is that from a government customer, that they are dealing with the supply chain threats that Amazon and a lot of the commercial providers are dealing with, that those are cyber, natural disasters, kind of black swan events like the pandemic, geopolitical. So you have all of those threats that don't go away just because you're operating for a government customer, or those are still there. And really, our customers are dealing with additional threats that are layered on top of those threats. So when you're trying to get equipment to a contested environment, you're going to have to deal, you still have the cyber threats, but now you may have to deal with not having access to a port, not being able to communicate directly with where you need to ship your equipment. So it's a combined effect of the standard threats that all of us are dealing with are there, and then they're made even worse when you try to do them in some of these austere environments.
Well, I'd be interested to also hear, what does the AWS and Leidos collaboration look like in logistics? How are you working together, and how is that helping meet government challenges? Samir, maybe you could start with that one.
Yeah, we've been working government compliance for a long time, and AWS has been working with the U.S. government and foreign governments for years now, trying to make sure that we meet compliance standards and we're able to work at the several levels of clearance needed to be able to go do the hard mission-based activity that they're asking us to go support. Logistics is included in that world. So as we continue to work with partners like Leidos, making sure that we are providing infrastructure and being compliant with what their end customers' mission needs are, is a core part of how we best support from an infrastructure standpoint. Working with Leidos has been a fun time. We've learned a lot from them. We think about working backward as a core part of how we make sure that we do what the customer needs. And we started working backward with Leidos over a year ago, Amy. I think it's been about a year now where we had the Leidos team come visit us and learn together about what our strengths are and what we both bring to the table for logistics and supply chain. And this collaboration that we've had has allowed us to really learn a lot about Leidos's deep expertise in supplying support for logistics, for the government, what it takes to go to the space station, what it takes to go to Antarctica, what it takes to support governments around the world. And we've been able to really think hard about how data is a common thread and infrastructure compliantly support that world and support really the modernization that Leidos is trying to pull forward for the government today.
And Amy, how do you see the collaboration from your perspective? And again, how's it helping government?
Yeah, so it has been and kind of a fun year getting to work alongside AWS and Amazon. So Leidos and AWS have a strong partnership. We have worked across a lot of different domains to help our customers modernize and move to leverage the cloud to do that. But what was exciting when you put logistics in front of that is that Amazon effect that I talked about, that is the opportunity that our customers are seeking. And so you've got AWS, leading provider of cloud. You have Amazon that clearly knows the supply chain business. And when you partner with Leidos, we bring, how do we pull those together and bring that, bring the value of the cloud, bring that commercial know-how to our government customers. It's not, you can't buy it off the shelf, and operating and running supply chains for the government has its own constraints, and being able to navigate those and modernize, injecting that capability where we can, is where we're trying to do with this collaboration with Leidos and AWS.
And so if I could add to that, the collaboration has really helped us think hard about both physical fulfillment as well as what data should look like for logistics. And as we work with Leidos, we're both building and testing those two worlds. How do we move things and help and work with Leidos on their contracts and with their customers to move things? And then how do we make sure that they have the data needed to be able to make the best decisions in how they're moved?
Well, logistics has been sort of an art form and science for decades, and there's always been contractors and vendors helping government. Talk to me a little bit about how's the cloud and cloud-enabled improvements in this area really helped improve decision-making internally for your customers. Amy, maybe you could tell us from your perspective first.
Yes, I like the description of it as an art form. I think logistics is an industry that's continuously transforming. We are always trying to add efficiencies. We're always trying to be more resilient and trying to take advantage of, kind of the latest and greatest technology. And cloud I see as really a launching pad for a lot of that innovation. What we've seen with our customers, and our customers range from, we still have some systems that are mainframes that are looking to modernize, and then we have industry-leading supply chain end-to-end systems that we manage for our customers. And what we've found is that once we get to the cloud, it really sets our customers up for taking advantage of their data. So being able to run analytics on top of their data to support their decision-making. A good example of that is from a predictive readiness perspective, that once our system's in the cloud and you're able to really analyze all the data that you have, you're able to offer to the customer that when do you need to buy a part? When do you need to bring a ship in for maintenance that's going to eliminate a potential outage? And it's the ability to make those decisions faster so that you're not dealing with failures, you're not dealing with disruptions. And the other piece of that is, with AI ML, it really needs to be trusted. And so I think the cloud migration really starts that journey to trust, so that when you do run your analytics and that tells you to bring your ship back in, you have confidence that it's not just a data anomaly. You have confidence that you can trust that data and you can make that decision, even automate that decision as you mature, and then continue on with your logistics operations.
And Samira, what would you add additionally, in part, since you are a cloud provider?
Robotics and computer vision and these technologies actually have a place in modern supply chains. However, there are needs that cloud provides as far as helping people get started, helping companies begin, put their foot in the water and figure out how to go modernize. That cloud allows agility and flexibility to go execute. So in the area of robotics, heterogeneous robotics and availability of analytics at the edge are really important. Be able to provide robots from many different suppliers and allow them all to go talk in the same cloud infrastructure is important to us, because we know it's important to our end customers. And as we modernize and building all at one time with massive investments versus over time, those are two very different things for new technologies. And over time, as fleets of robots come in and as standards are set, for the cloud to be able to allow agility for our end customers to be able to bring those new technologies into their supply chain and fulfill and do logistics work is important to us.
And then lastly, and this is a question for both of you, where do you see the biggest opportunities for government agencies to leverage the cloud even further? Amy?
Yes, I think that launching pad for innovation is where I think the opportunities continue in the logistics space. Samir talked about that incremental modernization or incremental innovation. And while the software developer in me would love to be able to completely rebuild a system, the reality is that our customers have invested heavily in systems that are key parts of their business operations. And so being able to leverage the cloud to connect those core systems to other data sources, to continuously expand that data that's at our fingertips. So whether that is through sensor data, edge computing, working with all of that AWS capability to take advantage of scale of data sources, bring security to our supply chain, and then that focus on speed of decision making. And then I think the last piece is the scale, right? That once we've got repeatable solutions that are in the cloud, that we can scale those to wider customer sets and wider parts of our supply chain.
And Samir?
So I agree on everything Amy said, and I'll add a few more. I think the integration of technology is something that cloud provides a lot of agility to go do. And our partners, integrators like Leidos, pull technology from a lot of partners who are native to AWS, who have brought the technology to AWS and have integrated deeply into machine learning, artificial intelligence, or other services that we have available. That level of integration, the speed with which they can make changes and adjust and be resilient to the changes that are coming in supply chain, is one of the biggest benefits that we can offer as a commercial best practice to government agencies and end users on the government side who have strict requirements for compliance, but needs for commercial best practices. And balancing those together is something that a collaboration like ours is able to go do. We're excited to go deliver that to the customer.
Well, Amy Freeman and Samir Mehta, thank you so much for sharing some of your insights about how the cloud and AI are helping to accelerate efforts around logistics and supply chain issues. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wyatt.